Hello, welcome to a new episode of Geek Lunch Me. I'm your host Chris, as usual, and in this episode I'm going to be doing a quick makeover on this bootleg Godzilla Earth figure that I picked up recently on eBay. Now, being a bootleg figure, the quality control isn't fantastic, so there's a few parts that are bent that need mending, and obviously the paint job I think can be improved, even though it doesn't look too bad for what you pay for it. Yeah, I'm going to show you some quick and easy tips how to get him looking a bit more like he does in the actual anime. Don't forget, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, helps out a great deal, helps the video get seen by a lot more people. And if you've not already subscribed to the channel, why not hit that subscription button? Absolutely love to have you as a subscriber. Right, so this Godzilla design is known as Godzilla Earth. He's from the Godzilla Planet trilogy of anime films that were produced by Netflix. The first one, Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, came out in 2017, and then in 2018 we got Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle and Godzilla the Planet Eater. Now, I will say personally for me, I didn't enjoy them as much as I hoped I was going to. The Godzilla part of it is great. Unfortunately, he's not in them very much. The story is basically that after years of Kaiju attacks, humanity decides to just leave Earth, hand it over to the Kaiju, and head for the stars. And they basically end up returning 20,000 years later, because it turns out the planet they were going to colonize turns out to not be suitable or something like that as well, since I've seen it. But yeah, basically they come back to Earth, 20,000 years have passed, and Godzilla has evolved. That's sort of the whole planet. There's a whole thing with this alien race that's now with them as well. As I say, for me, it concentrates too much on the humans and this alien race rather than Godzilla and the Kaiju. Also, at the end of the first film, it gave the impression that you were getting Mechagodzilla in the second film. It turns out they've reimagined him, and obviously after thousands of years have passed, he's sort of evolved into this giant city, and you're sort of hoping that he's going to transform back into a giant Mecha Godzilla at the end. He doesn't. Then at the end of that film, they tease you're going to get Ghidorah in the final film, and you sort of do, but he's been reimagined as sort of like electricity. It's a bit odd, but he's become this sort of energy being, a bit like in Gremlins 2, where that gremlin drinks that electricity formula and ends up sort of zapping around everywhere. Yeah, strangely a bit like that. So yeah, for me, unfortunately, the trilogy falls a bit flat. But let's say I love the Godzilla design. Godzilla Earth, he's basically huge when they get back sort of to Earth 20,000 years later. He's massive. He's 300 meters tall, which is by far and away the largest of all the different designs of Godzilla. He's like 3 times the height of sort of the average Godzilla. He's got like his own ecosystem. He's like a giant, almost like a walking mountain. He moves very slowly and ponderously, as you'd expect. And say this whole ecosystem has grown up around him. It's a really good idea. Unfortunately, I don't think they do enough with it in the film. Unfortunately, I don't think they do enough of it in the films, but it does give us this great sort of design of Godzilla Earth. You can see all of his like muscle structure. It's sort of reminiscent almost of like tree trunks and branches and sort of vines and things like that. As I say, it's almost like he's a giant walking sort of rainforest covered mountain. There's sort of lots of browns and greys and greens sort of mixed in. And of course, there are several different figures you can buy, and like most Japanese figures, they're incredibly expensive, especially to try and get them imported here in the UK. But this little fella, it's been cropping up loads on eBay. He's obviously a bootleg, but you can get him for about 10 quid. There's loads of them on there. So I ordered one for 10, I'm thinking, yeah, I'll just do a repaint. And yeah, he turned out he's pretty good. I say there's a few things where, say, obviously quality control on bootleg toys isn't as great. The main issue being is sort of his dorsal fins here on the top. These ones are all bent over to one side. As you can see, this one here is like completely bent out, like almost at right angles. So we'll have to sort that out. And then if you look at him from the front on, both his arms are sort of doing that. Looks like he's doing the Wednesday dance. And his legs look like he'd probably be doing with being bent a bit outwards. So what I'll do first is try and remedy all of the sort of bendy bits that we've got. So you can either use a hairdryer to heat the vinyl, bend it back into place, or obviously some hot water and submerge him in that, bend him back, then maybe plunge him into some cold water, try and get the bits to stay in. I say this fin that's completely bent over at the side, I will try and bend it back. I've got a feeling it might snap off. If it does, so be it. I'll sort of file down the bottom bit and then we'll super glue it back on. Then I thought what I'll do is spray the entire thing over a black undercoat, and then I think airbrushing, say some browns and greens, and then probably some dry brushing, and then probably some highlights, some lighter greens on these dorsal fins, just to sort of bring out the detail. So hopefully it should be quick and simple, or famous last words I know, but yeah, hopefully it shouldn't be too much trouble. And then you'll make a nice display piece in the collection. So first of all, let's try and bend all the pieces back into where they should be. Okay, so nothing complicated. I've run a sink full of hot water. Obviously, be careful that you don't burn yourself if you run it too hot. Yeah, it just softens up the vinyl, and then we'll try and bend that spine and the legs back into place. We'll go with that one first. It's really out of position, and as you can see, it broke off straight away, as I suspected it would. But never mind, we will super glue that back on later on. But yeah, so we'll stick the legs in, and we'll try and get his legs to bend out a bit back into their normal place where they should be. You can always just chuck it straight under cold water afterwards to try and fix it in place. So then on to priming. Just sprayed it black. Any old spray will do. I happen to have the Citadel one. Sprayed it outside, well ventilated. I'm using my respirator as well. Just get a good coverage all over. Once that's dry, I'm then going to airbrush a base coat of burnt umber on. Basically, doing this from the top, going downwards, like you would Zenithal highlighting when you're priming gaming minis to paint. Doing it like this, it means the paint hits all the areas where it would naturally catch light and would be brightest and creates a natural shadow below. Once I've got the browns on, still leaving some black showing beneath, it was time to go on to olive green on top as well. Didn't go for sort of a bright green, to say it's quite a sort of dark and greyish green, as befitting Godzilla Earth. That's sort of how he looks to me in the actual anime. So again, just spraying from a sort of 45-degree angle coming down. Then I mixed in some pale blue with the olive green as well, just to create more highlights on top, and just gave this a sort of mist coat over the top. Not applying too much. Didn't want it to be too bright, but not to worry. We can knock that back. Some of the brightness we can knock that back in a minute with some shading, which we'll do. I then mixed in some blue with the olive green and the pale blue to do his sort of dorsal fins, and just sort of made sure kept the paint on those, trying to avoid the body as much as possible, just to bring a bit more colour to his fins. Then he was on to just picking out his claws on his hands and feet, and also his teeth, just using a sort of tan, sort of sandy colour. Just brushed those on. Just make sure you thin your paint with a little bit of water. It just helps it go on smoother. You don't want the paint too thick, and you can always applying two thin coats is far better than applying one thick coat. I then mixed a couple of shades, Agarax shade being a brownie shade and Athonian camo shade, both from Citadel, and that's a much more greener shade. I mixed them together and then just sort of randomly brushed them on using an old tatty brush, and just sort of went into sort of all the crevices, went straight over the claws and the teeth as well, just covered everything just to get a bit of shading. When that was dry, just took some, this is flat brown, ordinary acrylic paint, and just put it on in places. Again, just randomly applied it, sort of made it look organic, no sort of real rhyme or reason, just to bring back a bit of the browny colour that I felt it was missing in some of the shots in the film. You can see there's a lot more brown showing underneath. Then it was on to just highlighting the dorsal fins. This is a dry brush, and as you can see, I just mixed up some of the pale blue paint with a little bit of white. You rub most of it off on a paper towel, so you've got hardly anything left on the brush at all, and then you just sort of carefully and gently just pick out all the edges on the fins. I just work my way all the way down from the head all the way to the base of the towel, just picking out the natural highlights. Dry brushing is a really good way of creating highlights on sort of very textured surfaces, so works ideal on Godzilla's dorsal fins. Once all the paint dried, I sprayed it with a matte Tamiya clear coat that I just like the effect it gives on any models I paint. And then here he is, Godzilla Earth, in all his glory. Say a simple paint job, say just take a cheap £10 bootleg toy, just make it look a bit more in line with more of the sort of more expensive Japanese Bandai figures. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it gives you some ideas on repainting some of your own toys. Thanks for watching, and until next time, eat geek and be merry.